Let's talk about color balancing. I want to talk about adjusting your white balance, how to use your color mixer panel to adjust for the most flattering skin tones you can possibly get. So let's go ahead and dive right in. All right, so let's talk about this photo right here. There's a lot happening in terms of color balancing. We're shooting in very strong, hard sunlight. It was kind of mid-afternoon. There's that strong light that you see is behind this big wall right here. We're surrounded by a lot of greenery. So on the way that the bride is looking, there's a little more of an open space, but there's a giant wall of green palms that the sun is hitting as well, which is giving us a little bit of a green hue cast. The other thing to keep in mind is that being in the shade, the white balance is a lot cooler than it is on the other side. So we're battling very cool tones in the shadows with very warm tones in the highlights. And then we also have a lot of color casting from the green palms. So color casting would be when the sun, it works the same as a reflector, right? Whatever surface the source of light is hitting, whatever color that surface is, the light is gonna bounce. So just like you would use, the circular bounces where they have a silver side, a golden side, or the white, right? And you can use that to reflect sun back into your subject if you're shooting in natural light, or if you're using flash and you're bouncing off of a white wall, you're bouncing it, whatever you bounce it off of, whatever color it's bouncing off of, it's going to cast that same color. Here in this situation, really strong sunlight that's hitting some green palms and green grass, what's going to bounce back into your subject? The color green. Okay, if it was red plants, it would bounce back red. Let's say if here I had the groom and the groom's wearing a very blue suit, the light would bounce. If it was hitting the groom, it would bounce off of the blue suit and cast blue onto the skin. Okay, if he was wearing a pink suit, it would cast pink onto the skin, so on. I hope that makes sense. So if we look here, if we look at the highlights of the sunlight that was coming in from camera left, there's a lot of green hue that's being cast on the face. So let's start out first by slapping my preset on this and get started. My preset already desaturates a lot of the greens and the yellows to give it a little bit of a softer look and keeps my greens true green rather than yellow. So it pulls the yellow out of those greens. Now, let's start first by white balance. One quick tip I give you if you're having trouble with figuring out your true whites within the frame, a thing that you can do that's a very easy kind of cheat sheet or code is on your canvas here in Lightroom. If you right click outside of the image, you have all these options to what you want your canvas to look like. If you're starting out, when I first started out, I liked using the white canvas because it gives you a true reference of what the color white looks like. So now when you're comparing white to your canvas to the white in your picture, you notice very quickly that it's not true white. It feels a lot cooler meaning bluer, right, than the white on your canvas. So now you can use that to compare it and slide here your temperature slider until you feel like it's matching a little more. So naturally, as you're adjusting your slider, lowering your Kelvin temperature and upping your Kelvin temperature, you're going to have to also balance your greens and your magentas within the frame. So your tint, right? And this can be stylistic approach or whatever you want it to look like. But let's go ahead and look first. What I like to do is zoom into the skin tones and prioritize my skin tones for the white balancing, right? Because we're in the shade, naturally, my white balance is going to be a lot cooler, but I'm getting a lot of the natural light that wasn't in the shade bouncing into the face. So I know that when I expose the skin right and I white balance the skin to that ambient light that we had, the whites are gonna still feel a little cool. And I'll show you how to balance it. This is a very challenging situation, as I said, just for the purpose of this video. Normally, everything would kind of be a little more even. This pocket was a very tough pocket to shoot in and balance for. So I'll walk you through that. First off, we'll kind of balance for the face, and we kind of look at, what I like to do is you can max it out one way, max it out the other way, and slowly slowly kind of bounce back and forth until you feel like it looks good. And to my eye, it just kind of feels right about here, feels nice and natural. And then same goes for the tint. I like to kind of bounce back and forth and see right what looks natural to my eye to balance it out. So now you notice there's still a little bit of that green casting on the skin, and I'll show you a way to fix that. There's 3 sliders that are going to affect the skin tones, right? You have your red, your orange, and your yellow. Those 3 colors, whenever you're adjusting your hue, saturation, or luminance, those are definitely going to affect your skin tones in different ways. Most specifically if you're shooting outdoors, okay? Around a lot of green, you can start seeing more of an effect of the yellows on there. So I'm going to move the sliders here so you can kind of see how they're affecting, right? So that yellow sunlight is hitting our greens that I told you about in front of her, and it's affecting the skin tones. And if you see, as I turn it into the orangey side of things and then to the green side of things, you see where that casting is falling on our bride, right? So instead of doing an overall adjustment that's going to affect every part of our photo with a tint slider, we're just going to tackle this one casting situation, which is the color yellow that's casting from the sun bouncing on the greenery, by just simply sliding our hue slider in the yellow down towards the orange, and that cleans up our skin tones right away really nicely. You can see same thing in the orange. So the orange, because it's not the sunlight is a yellow, mostly yellow, really warm color. The orange is gonna affect our skin tones, but you see it's not affecting the background, right? Like the casting onto the greenery and everything around it. It's just simply the skin tones. And same for the red. You'll see mostly on the lips and stuff, it's the red parts of the skin that you move. Here, being so that we're only trying to adjust the color casting from the sun, bouncing off of the greenery and back to the skin, it's the yellow slider that we're going to adjust. And that slide adjustment already has my skin tones looking a lot more balanced and beautiful. So there we go. We have that done there. And we can look at the before and after, and it's already looking a lot warmer, a lot more inviting and beautiful. I do think that it's a little bit warm for my taste. So we'll back it down a little bit. When I look at zoomed out, I think that this is looking good, and even the magenta is a little bit on that magenta-y side. I don't like that too much. There we go. Boom. That looks really good to me. Okay, what do we do if the dress is still looking really blue, so the whites aren't true white? Well, there's a couple works around there. You can either brush your subject with a warmer brush, or you can go ahead and use a beautiful new mask where you go here and you go select people. You select the person, and then you can choose here what you want to create a mask for. So you would go ahead and select clothes. Sometimes it'll get it right. Sometimes it's gonna get a little funky with it. Then I like to hit O to see the overlay. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna subtract. So I'm gonna subtract some of this mask using my brush. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to zoom in. And you see here that obviously we don't want to target the hair, we don't want to target the face. So we're going to go ahead and subtract that, deleting it with a brush. There we go. Then we'll make the brush a little smaller. We'll delete some of the hair here. We don't need it too much on that. There it is. Perfect. And then we need to add it. So we're going to go ahead and add, and we're going to add a brush, and then we'll add it to the bottom of the dress. So now I do notice also that some of the grass here has a cooler tone than the upper of the frame. So I'm going to go ahead and include the grass as well. You can do this with a gradient mask, a linear gradient, or you can just brush it because you're there with it already. We're going to make an even adjustment, all of what's in red. So this is a very specific situation. I wouldn't normally do this to every single picture. This would be what I would do to a sneak peek that I'm really trying to balance and give it a wow factor, right? So then once I have my mask applied and I know that it's brushed where I want it to be affecting, I go to my slider here and I start to adjust the slider to where I want it to be way too warm, right? We back it down. So I think just a little bit of a touch of warmth will do the trick. What I am noticing though is that as I warm it up, it is adding too much yellow here on the body. So I will probably go back in, right? I would zoom in a little bit, and I will go ahead and hit my subtraction brush and take it away from the spots that I thought it was warming up too much and was unnecessary, which was here, mostly the spots where she was getting that casting from the green plants. So we'll take it away from that. And that is looking a lot better already. So now we look at the before and after, and even here, right here, this looks like a very bright patch of yellow that I don't like. So let me show you there. Boom. So we'll go ahead and first let's neutralize the exposure, right? Because I had it already set for exposure adjustment. So I'll reset that and strictly wanted to do the coloring. And then we'll go back to the delete brush and delete it off of that little pocket there so it doesn't look like it's affecting so much. So now let's look at the before and after. Perfect. Perfect. And that already looks a lot more balanced and warmth and cozy than it did before. And if you look here from the zoom out position without that brush adjustment on the lower bottom, now the whole frame is kind of balanced. The whites are white, everything's kind of color balanced a lot better. If you want to get crazier and you don't want to do all of that brushing super intensely, you can always just come into your saturation and desaturate the blues, right? You see that blue that's casting on all of your dress, you can just desaturate that a little bit and that will do away with that blue color. And only because I do this because no one has blue eyes or there's not like a blue suit or that sort of thing. The only blue is a little bit on the flowers, but being so far away, it's not like a very noticeable pop. That's another option of something you can do real quick to take away that blue from the white wedding dress. This is a very extreme case. These are all little tips that you can use to balance throughout your photos. Normally, you wouldn't go this intense about it. It's just typically you can nail it with your white balance sliders, your temperature, and your tint. Yes, you can also do your color grading here, so you can add warmth into the shadows. You can add coolness into the highlights. So instead of sliding your hue on the skin tones, you could just go to your highlights and add a little bit of that magenta hue into it and balance the skin tones that way too. I just like being a little more targeted with my adjustments, and that's why I use the hue sliders. In some case, I will add a little blue to the highlights when the image is overall really warm and we're shooting in hard light. But that's a different scenario. I will run through some of those as well, but this is just a basic breakdown of how I approach color grading, color balancing in a very, very tough situation where you have not only two opposing white balances, the blues of the shades and the hard warmth of that hard sunlight, as well as color casting from a green source onto the skin tone. That's like a very tough, usually like the gauntlet of color grading when it comes to a portrait. I hope you liked this. I hope you found it helpful. Make sure that you subscribe on there. Follow Fuego Magic in Instagram if you want some education, Fuego Magic Education. We have the podcast on Spotify, Fuego Magic Podcast, if you want some of that stuff that you might not see here on YouTube. And subscribe. Give it some love. Leave some comments. Tell me what you want to hear about. Tell me what you want me to talk about. What information you'd like to know. I'm an open book, full transparency. Let's get it going, and I'll see you on the next one.